For years, Washington has talked about bringing manufacturing back home. From reshoring incentives and Made in America tax breaks to tariffs on foreign imports, the mission was clear: rebuild the industrial backbone of the United States. But here's the twist: it's not working out as planned. According to new data from the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, manufacturing activity in the Mid-Atlantic region unexpectedly contracted this October. Output fell. New orders dropped. And, most concerning of all, input and output prices climbed sharply. A double squeeze that's pressuring margins and shaking business confidence. It's a story that says a lot about where America's real economy stands right now. Factories are busy, but not booming. Orders are coming in, but profits are thin. And across the supply chain, costs, from energy to labor to raw materials, are creeping up again. For the first time in nearly a year, inflation in production is rising, even as consumer inflation shows signs of cooling. So what's going on inside America's manufacturing sector, and what does it mean for businesses across the country? Let's start with the basics. The U.S. has been trying to rebuild its manufacturing base since the pandemic exposed just how fragile global supply chains really were. Chips, batteries, steel, and rare earth materials, all critical to the modern economy, were suddenly in short supply. In response, Washington passed massive legislation like the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act to encourage domestic production. At first, it worked. Billions poured into new factories. Construction on semiconductor plants in Arizona, Ohio, and Texas hit record levels. Big automakers started building battery plants across the Midwest and the South. It looked like the long-promised manufacturing revival was finally happening. But fast forward to this fall, and reality is biting back. Many of these projects are now delayed or over budget. Some foreign suppliers have pulled back due to tariffs or regulatory uncertainty. At the same time, the cost of everything from industrial equipment to skilled labor has jumped. Factories that were supposed to be profitable are now struggling with razor-thin margins. The latest data shows manufacturers reporting weaker demand from both domestic and international customers. Exports are slowing, thanks in part to a strong dollar, which makes U.S. goods more expensive overseas. At the same time, input prices, things like energy, shipping, and materials, are rising again, cutting into profitability. This is what economists call a cost shock, and it's hitting small and mid-sized manufacturers hardest. Larger corporations can absorb the blow with scale and technology, but smaller firms, many of which supply parts or materials to bigger companies, are being squeezed. Energy prices are a major culprit. The rapid build-out of data centers and AI infrastructure across the country has driven up regional electricity demand. Utilities are warning that industrial users may see higher rates in 2026 as new grid projects are funded. For energy-intensive manufacturers, think aluminum, chemicals, and steel, that's a serious problem. Then there's labor. America's labor market remains tight, with unemployment near historic lows. Skilled trades like machinists, welders, and technicians are in short supply, forcing companies to raise wages to attract talent. Even with automation and robotics improving efficiency, payroll expenses have climbed sharply. Put it all together, and you get a picture of an industry under pressure. So what does this mean for the broader business landscape? First, we're seeing a shift in corporate strategy. Many firms are moving away from pure expansion and focusing instead on optimization, doing more with less. Rather than building new plants, they're upgrading existing ones with AI-based predictive maintenance, energy management, and supply chain analytics. They're using automation not just to reduce headcount, but to make operations more efficient, resilient, and adaptable. Second, there's growing regional divergence. States that invested early in infrastructure, like Texas, Ohio, and North Carolina, are still seeing strong manufacturing activity. But regions that rely on older industrial bases, like parts of the Midwest and Northeast, are lagging behind. This uneven recovery could reshape the U.S. business map for decades to come. Third, companies are quietly rethinking their global strategy. Tariffs and trade restrictions are forcing many manufacturers to diversify supply chains. Some are shifting parts of production to Mexico or Southeast Asia, while keeping final assembly in the US. Others are adopting a China Plus One model, maintaining some presence in Asia for cost efficiency, but building redundancy elsewhere to reduce risk. What's clear is that the golden era of cheap global manufacturing is over. The next era will be about resilience, not just efficiency. But there's also a bigger lesson here, and it's about innovation. The manufacturing slowdown isn't just an economic story, it's a technological one. Companies that invested early in digital tools like robotics, AI-powered logistics, and advanced analytics are navigating the downturn far better than those that didn't. They're cutting downtime, forecasting demand more accurately, and maintaining profitability even when orders slow. AI, in particular, is proving to be the differentiator. Firms that have integrated AI into production planning, equipment monitoring, and customer forecasting are staying ahead of the curve. They can respond faster to supply shocks, adjust pricing in real time, and predict maintenance before breakdowns happen. In a way, this manufacturing contraction is separating the traditional players from the modern ones. The factories that fail to modernize may not disappear overnight, but they'll lose competitiveness steadily, year by year. Meanwhile, those that embrace smart automation and digital infrastructure could emerge leaner, stronger, and far more resilient. For business owners, this is the takeaway. Surviving the next decade of manufacturing won't depend on scale alone. It'll depend on intelligence, the ability to gather data, analyze it, and make fast, efficient decisions will define the winners of the next industrial era. And for policymakers, there's a balancing act ahead. Protecting U.S. manufacturing through tariffs and incentives is one thing. Ensuring that those industries can actually stay profitable amid rising costs is another. Without structural efficiency, cheaper energy, better logistics, smarter automation, no amount of subsidies can guarantee long-term success. The truth is, America's manufacturing revival was never going to be easy. Competing globally while paying higher wages, higher energy bills, and higher regulatory costs was always a tough equation. But this latest data makes it clear. The path forward isn't about nostalgia for the old factory floor. It's about reimagining what manufacturing means in the 21st century. If the 1900s were about steam and steel, the 2020s will be about sensors and software. Factories of the future won't just produce goods, they'll produce data. They'll learn, adapt, and optimize continuously. The current slowdown might look like bad news, but history suggests it's part of a bigger transformation. Every major leap in American industry, from electrification to automation, started with a period of struggle and reinvention. This one is no different. The next few years will test which companies evolve and which ones fade away. Rising costs and contracting margins are painful, but they're also pushing U.S. businesses to innovate faster than ever before. Because in the end, this isn't just about surviving a slowdown, it's about preparing for the next boom. One built not on cheap labor or mass production, but on intelligence, innovation,